folks. Thanks for joining up on the live broadcast. Stick with me for just a second here. We're just finishing up a couple things. We're going to jump into learning a little bit about renting out homes in the wintertime. We have a great video for you all to watch, so stick with us here in the chat, invite your friends, and we'll be right with you. All right, everybody, don't go anywhere. We're about to kick this off. I'll be switching over to the live broadcast in just a second. We're going to be learning a little bit more about renting homes out in the wintertime and what happens when there's a massive heating failure and you land on the news. So we're going to be showing you a news broadcast of a landlord actually in our area, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit, about how this could be you if you're looking at investing in real estate in an area that has... All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I love to see people here. I'm using some new software, so I really appreciate you guys having some patience with me as we try to figure this stuff out as we go. If you're wondering who I am, my name's Kevin. I'm the property prince, and I'm half of Two Guys Take on Real Estate. And I wanted to talk to you guys today to let you have an opportunity to learn from our experience. We have had a lot of experience with all sorts of aspects of real estate here at Two Guys Take on Real Estate. In fact, we started about 12, 13 years ago, but I always say it feels like 35 because it's been a very long road. And we want to help you have success faster and easier than we were able to. So that's why we created these channels. Here we have a Instagram channel as well, and we'd love for you guys to make sure you hit the button to subscribe anytime you see us on any of these different platforms. We have a lot of fun meeting new people and trolling the heck out of you guys too. We're going to talk today about what happens when you own rental property. Now, the reason I wanted to make a quick live and go through some of this stuff with you guys is because so many people focus on how to get a property, how to buy a property, how to acquire something, how to get a great deal, that they forget that they also need to know what to do with it after they own it. And they start learning how to be a landlord after they become a landlord, and that's way too late. And thanks, by the way, for saying hi in the chat. Also, it's because I'm old. Yeah, that hurts. That hurts every time I hear about it. Some people are just as old as me. Not quite as funny and witty, though. I don't know. That's how this stuff works out sometimes. So we're going to watch this video right here. This is actually a news broadcast right in our area, and it affected a landlord actually that I'm actually familiar with. So I felt pretty comfortable putting this out there because I wanted to show you guys how some of this stuff plays out in the world of real estate when something goes wrong. And let's face it, things, the more you use them in a home, only wear out and break down. They don't magically improve. So that's what we're going to be seeing here is what happens when something goes wrong. And, you know, it's never fun to have something go wrong in the winter, but that's when more things tend to break down. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to put this on here and let you guys see what actually got broadcast live here on the news. And I've been on the receiving end of this before, so I want to show you guys what might happen for you. Let's start this off.
Western Mass News getting answers on this Tuesday evening. A concerned viewer reached out to our newsroom saying her apartment building in Springfield has been without heat now for 17 days. Good
17 days. That's what they're going to lead with. They're going to make this as big of a deal as possible because it sounds very, very catchy. Immediately, everybody that starts hearing the story right here sided with the tenant without knowing anything else, right? That sounds horrible. So that's something that you really gotta realize a little bit and think about. this is a news station like anything else. They're looking to get views and catch eyeballs, and that's one of the things that they're going to do for that. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep playing, but yeah, let's. Already not looking great for the landlord. What a dirtbag! This guy's left his tenants without heat for 17 days. Ouch.
Good evening and thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Jordan Jagalinzer. Western Mass News reporter Kristen Burnell joins us now live in Springfield with the exclusive details. Kristen?
Jordan, I spoke with the owner of the apartment buildings and found out some tenants were without heat due to them replacing the heating systems. I asked why it's taking so long to repair and what they're doing to help those who are impacted.
Given this.
Well, so right there you go. You found that they're replacing the heating systems. Now, nobody in their right mind replaces the heating system in the middle of winter. I think this is last month or so in beginning of February, late January, right? Nobody's doing that unless something went wrong and you have no other option. You have to do that. So that's one of the things that you don't really think about is, do you replace a heating system in June because it's scheduled and you want to upgrade? Yes. Do you do it in January because it's scheduled and you just feel like upgrading? Absolutely not. So something clearly went wrong at the property, and the landlord had to buy and retool the property. Not something that they did by choice, I'm sure, right? It doesn't make any sense. So clearly something went wrong, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're replacing heating systems, which means something went wrong. Stuff happens. I mean, nothing's immune to that. Anything can break. Your car can break down. Anything can mechanically go wrong and fail. It doesn't mean immediately right there that the landlord's a bad guy. Now, 17 days, that's a long time for somebody to sit in their apartment and freeze. So is that what happened? Well, let's find out. So I'm going to replay this
and found out some tenants were without heat due to them replacing the heating systems. I asked why it's taking so long to repair and what they're doing to help those who are impacted.
Given the supply chain shortages around, so repair was not a viable option. So we've replaced the heating systems in each of these buildings. We had to go to 3 locations in Boston to get 4 different heating systems. To be able to do this in as quickly as possible.
Right. So there you go. I mean, it's not that the landlord's leaving these people out there to suffer, right? And they're calling the news and they're saying, "Oh my God, we haven't had heat in 17 days, and we're all getting sick and we're all dying, and this landlord sucks." They're calling the news because it's been some time since they've had a working heating system in the property, sure. But that's what the news is going to do. The first thing, I mean, it's a good thing this landlord answered that phone call, and that's a good thing that the news station actually contacted him. Because I tell you, that doesn't always seem to be the case with these kind of folks. But they want a story. I mean, they went live in front of this property, and this sounds like something very, very urgent, and sounds like a landlord that's not doing the right thing. But then, as soon as you start hearing from the landlord, it's listen, heating systems went down. These things happen. Repairing them with lack of parts because of what's going on with this current administration makes it very, very challenging. So, yeah, I'm trying to fix it, but I mean, and fixing something doesn't necessarily mean you were negligent and you let something break or wear out, right? I mean, these things absolutely can happen. Servicing it in the off season is really, really important. If it's a furnace, forced hot air, changing filters, checking these things out, running tests. Making sure they're properly serviced so that hopefully you don't break down in the wintertime, but breaking down and then resolving the issue is the important thing. It sounds really crazy. I'm going to say it though. I love when we have an issue at one of our properties and I'm able to step up and impress people because it gives you an ability to really, that's one of the big things that they're paying for. And that's one of the big things that's going to differentiate you between someone else that they're renting from is when something goes wrong, how are you handling it? Are you treating them properly? Are you treating them fairly? Are you meeting their needs and your obligations? As a landlord, you've got a lot of obligations. A lot of people think, hey, a tenant, all they have to do is pay rent. No, they've got a lot of other obligations too. They need to report maintenance issues before a small problem becomes a big problem. And as a landlord, you've got to resolve things, hopefully with very, very little inconvenience to the tenant. I mean, nobody thinks that nothing will ever wear out or go wrong, but it's all about your response to it and your treatment of the people involved. So this guy right here, right, this landlord, thank God he answered the phone and started to be able to tell his side, said, hey, listen, we immediately jumped into action, but it's not as easy as it normally would be. We couldn't get parts. We had to then go all over the place. They had to drive 2 hours away looking for different shops that were open that could get them, what they needed to reinstall brand new systems. They also had to have the money and the availability to do this. They needed the labor, the talent, the qualifications, not necessarily a given these days. They needed the money. This stuff is not cheap. So this guy's obviously stepping up and trying to do the right thing and fulfill his responsibilities. Now, 17 days, that does kind of suck for them. So this is one of the bigger problems, right? You're going to have to think about, what do you do in the meantime? You just can't leave people sitting, in their homes for almost 3 weeks without having heat in them. So, there's an emergency situation. How long should it take before you resolve a no heat situation? You should be resolving the emergency aspect of it within 24 hours. Now, that can mean a few different things. Let's go on and see if he gets into that or a little bit, if they ask him.
To be able to do this in as quickly as possible.
Bob Couture, owner of the apartments on Pearl Street, tells Western Mass News his staff has been working tirelessly to replace the heating system that broke in 2 of the buildings. However, he says finding the proper boilers has posed a challenge due to supply chain shortages. One tenant who wishes to remain anonymous first alerted us to the situation, saying she has been without heat for almost 3 weeks.
So 18 days ago, it was like a Friday afternoon, I heard the heat go, just die. You could hear it in the pipes.
Couture says he and the apartment's management company have offered temporary solutions for people who still do not have heat in their apartments.
We've been putting them up in a hotel.
So, they're playing the call, obviously, from the complaining tenant about it. But, I mean, she's trying to make it sound like she's not had any solutions.
Temporary solutions for people who still do not have heat in their apartment. He and the apartment's management company have offered temporary solutions for people who still do not have heat in their apartments.
We've been putting them up in a hotel until we get the permanent fix in place. We've provided space heaters for those that wanted to remain in their units.
Couture tells
couldn't have said it better myself. And in fact, I probably, knowing me, right, probably would have taken 10 minutes to say what he just said. That's a perfect soundbite. These people had a warm place to live. They're presumably paying, probably not, but hey, presumably paying each month to have a warm, home, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, etc. And something went wrong at that property. The landlord stepped up and made sure that what went lacking was resolved. So he said, listen, these things do happen. Your car breaks down. Guess what? Toyota, they give you a loaner car until it's fixed. Not unless you have a really crappy older car that's out of warranty, but as a tenant, you have a warranty. You are paying, or hopefully did pay that month, for a warm place to live. Something went wrong, and the landlord stepped up and they said, hey, God, really sorry about that. Here's a rental, right? It's ironic because you're in a rental. But he provided them with a hotel room. Now, we would do absolutely the same. In fact, we would do this for the longest time where we would actually pay for the property, the hotel. But now what we've switched into, which is faster administratively on our end, is we will literally go tell somebody, hey, listen, sorry about this. It looks like it's going to be 2 days before we can get the parts in, or we won't be able to get this resolved until tomorrow, but you need a warm place to live. So what you can do is, if you want to stay in a hotel, go find a hotel that you feel comfortable with. You choose it. That way the landlord's not putting you up in some flea bag motel and get that kind of a thing, because that's the first thing people will say. Oh, the guy's going to put them up in some $60 a night, whatever. No, you go choose the place. Look, something reasonable. You can't stay at a penthouse, at MGM or Bellagio or somewhere in Vegas or something like that. You got to stay somewhere reasonable. Let's say nothing more than 150. I'll pay up to 150 a night for you. Now, I will say, and I don't want to get too off topic of what this video is about, but if you're giving somebody a hotel room as an alternative to their apartment while you're having something repaired, this is pretty common. This happens. You should make sure it has a kitchenette in it or the ability to cook, prepare some kind of food. If it doesn't, what you should do is give them a per diem for some kind of food. So for the larger family, larger accommodations, also a larger per diem for a food budget. Think about that. Don't forget that aspect of things. Remember, they're being inconvenienced. Yes, it's reasonable, but they're still being inconvenienced. Don't try to skimp and save $20, wherein that $20 could turn this whole thing around and keep them from being, feeling extra inconvenienced or having some feeling like they're being nickeled and dimed. Spend the extra 20, whatever it is, $30, so you don't have to deal with a huge drop off in your relationship or calls to the news. Had this guy thrown an extra $20 at her, $50 at her, maybe this lady doesn't pick up the phone. I don't know. Not blaming him. It sounds like he did a great job. of giving them some options here. And I want to point out this other thing that he says
the
here.
permanent fix in place. We've provided space heaters for those that wanted to remain in their units.
Couture tells
Going to a hotel can kind of suck. I mean, you maybe you have a family, maybe you're just busy, maybe you got a pet. You don't want to have to. It's 6 o'clock at night. You got other stuff to do. You don't want to have to pack your stuff, go find a hotel, book it, get in there, settle in, and then go figure out about food. Screw that. Like, I'd rather stay in my apartment. It's what I pay for. He offers a solution for that too. Sorry, I see I know there's a couple of comments, and for some reason they're not coming up on the actual screen itself. I don't think so. There must be in just a regular YouTube chat. But yeah, absolutely. Nate's given some great feedback to a couple of good points that are coming up. What if you don't have the money available? Look, that's one of your responsibilities as a landlord, is to be able to resolve these things. If you don't have the ability to provide for your tenant after, for your customer, for what they're purchasing from you, which is a habitat, right? A habitable home, then you need to figure that out. That's something you need to do. So a line of credit is great. Credit cards. I mean, it sucks, but you need the wherewithal to be able to deliver on your end of the bargain. If you can't, or if you won't, you need to consider a different line of work. So we're talking about landlords in wintertime, real estate investment and ownership in the wintertime. This is something I can't talk about enough. Be prepared for this stuff before you get into it. That's why we made these channels, our YouTube channel, and I love to be on here going live doing this stuff with you, because I want to share some of the hardships and mistakes we've made. And I'm telling you, not knowing this kind of stuff beforehand makes a big difference when you have to do it on the fly and you make a couple of mistakes. So he had offered space heaters, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. He said, listen, hey, you don't want to, I'll give you a hotel, give you a nice, warm, safe place, a little staycation, right? No heat, no problem. And somebody else I might say, listen, that's such a huge pain in the butt. I got to pack up my kid. I got to go over here. I got to go do this. I got to go do that. I don't have time for all this. Can't I just stay here? He says, we'll offer space heaters
in place. We've provided space heaters for those that wanted to remain in their units.
Couture tells us they paid for hotel rooms for the tenants who wanted them. And for those who chose to stay in their apartments and use the space heaters, reimbursements for electric bills are being made. However, the tenant we spoke to says she is not happy with the owner's handling.
So even took into consideration the fact that using a space heater for maybe a couple of days, depending on what kind of outage you're looking at. He's obviously got an outage for a lot longer than I'm sure anybody would like, but he's making the best of it. And he even is smart enough to think about, hey, I'll even cover your electric bill. I will, I'll cover the increase. I'll throw you a credit, whatever, to offset the use of space heaters on your electric bill when heat was probably included as part of the rent. Pretty cool. I mean, pretty cool. So thought about that in advance. And again, this is something that I absolutely do. This is playbook. This is textbook stuff for me. So when somebody has these issues, I literally lay these things out, and I will say to them the same thing. Hey, listen, I get it. Things break. This is winter. They don't break when it's warm. Heating systems only break in January. So tell you what, if you want to stay off site and you want to check into a hotel, you pick the place as long as it's reasonable. Let's say nothing more than 150. I mean, obviously that depends on your market, right? But $150 a night here gets you a very nice hotel. And if you don't want to deal with that, you want to stay with a friend or a family member, or use a space heater or something like that, I will give you $100 credit. And it's, for me, $100 is not a lot of money if it resolves a huge complaint. If it just resolves the fact that they might pick up the phone and call the news, then you're getting called, you're running out, you're doing interviews on the street. They're probably going to call for lawyers next. You're dealing with probably not a lawsuit that goes anywhere, but certainly defending against one. Certainly defending against claims, and that itself has a cost. So $100, not a lot of money when you look at the alternatives that are out there. What's a reasonable amount of money to have set aside for reserves? I think that depends a lot more about how many units you have, that kind of a thing. But definitely have enough cash to cover stuff like this. The heating system is going to be one of the more expensive things that will go wrong, that you need to resolve right away.
Of the situation.
And of course, the tenant's still not happy with that. So to me, I'm starting to think, okay, I think the landlord is very reasonable, and I think the tenant a little bit unreasonable here. So, that's where you want to start really weighing this out a little bit and saying, setting expectations with these tenants right off the bat. She probably could have been talked to early on. Maybe she was, who knows? But she probably should have been talked to early on and set real straight. Also, stayed in touch with them in terms of the timeline about these repairs. I know we thought, we were going to have this thing installed on Wednesday, but the parts didn't get shipped in like they thought they would, or it's not the right thing. I'm very, very sorry. What can we do to make this right? That kind of a thing, and reset those expectations. That's the next thing that he could have done. Maybe he did. I don't know. We don't really know about that. But she still thinks he just didn't.
Not happy with the owner's handling of the situation.
A space heater is not an effective way to heat your home. I don't feel safe with it personally. My point is this.
Choose the hotel. I mean, he gave you choices. It's not desirable. It's not preferable. This is a temporary fix, and you had options. So that's not really a reasonable response right there. I don't think that's very fair to say. Space heater is not a safe way to heat your home. Cool, if you feel that way, he provided you a nice free hotel. I mean, and again, not a slummy one, right? So you have choices. You made that choice. Reevaluate it. If you don't feel safe, you change your mind. You're welcome to do that. Talk to your landlord.
A space heater is not an effective way to heat your home. I don't feel safe with it personally. My point is this owner should have taken responsibility from the beginning.
She adds that she.
So all I can assume with that is the owner should have taken responsibility from the beginning. It may very well mean that she thinks nothing was happening, that she thinks he was just ignoring the issue and not dealing with it. Or she is trying to say he should have handed me money for my annoyance and my inconvenience. He should have taken responsibility and paid me. One out of, I don't know how many people live there, but probably quite a few. It looks like it's a pretty good sized property. I think he's doing pretty
She
great.
had sent an email to the owner when she first noticed the heat was not working on January 21st, wondering when the issue would be resolved. But actions were not made until a week later.
I know when it's cold, it's it's not fun to be in like this. You got children to deal with, some that are elderly. We are working really, really hard, but we're in this environment of there's no product.
So once again, I mean, sounds like she reported it on a Friday and by email. There should be some kind of emergency type of reporting. If you're emailing somebody at Friday, especially if it's in the afternoon or the end of the day, they're probably not seeing that very quickly. They're probably not seeing that till Monday. Maybe people are checking the emails over the weekend. But you should have an emergency number to get to a live person. Set that up. You can have an answering service or somebody do that for you. But certainly set something like that up so you have the ability for somebody for two things. One, somebody can reach out and they'll feel heard. They know they communicated the issue into somebody. I mean, that's a big thing right there. If somebody leaves you a voicemail, if you left somebody a voicemail right now, right, and you call somebody up and you have something to tell them and it's important, and you leave them a voicemail, what do you think? Do you think they probably didn't check it? An hour goes by, they don't even listen to their voicemails, right? You have very little faith that they did. So how would you have that same kind of faith that somebody heard your email cry for help? So there's probably is an emergency. If you're a property management company, right, or you're a larger company, you probably have a emergency line or an answering service that can then call somebody that's on call, that type of a thing. That's what the tenant should be trained and coached on doing. And in this case here, the other problem is, maybe there was some communication that got dropped with the landlord. When that person called in or emailed in, they felt that he didn't do anything for a week. Now, that's probably one tenant of 20, and the heating problem isn't in her apartment. The heating problem is a central heating system from the description here. So obviously, they're not in and out of the apartment. She doesn't see them working on heating systems. She doesn't see them in a basement, in a boiler room, ripping stuff apart, putting parts in, troubleshooting. She didn't see any of that. And because she doesn't see it, she thinks nobody's doing anything. They're just leaving me hanging. It's freezing in here. I got nothing going on. She didn't say they came and they talked to me. They gave me space heaters. They came and they offered me a hotel room. She's like, the heat broke and they didn't do anything to fix it for a whole week. And then she saw a truck, or maybe then she saw people moving stuff in and out or around, or maybe whatever. I don't know. But that's where he could have probably locked this in better, is making sure she knew darn well that they were out there doing everything they could. Just like he's saying, we were working very diligently. We don't want anybody to go without, whether you're elderly or you got a kid or any of that crap, right? He's like, so he could have imprinted that on her. There's a lot of tenants. You probably aren't going to reach everybody. You're probably not going to be able to communicate with everybody. You certainly don't want to have 20 conversations with 20 tenants. How often are you running into these types of issues with your personal portfolio? All the time. This is when you have a larger portfolio, you're always going to have something going on. So it's for us, it's a Tuesday. It's not a big deal. We don't freak out about it. The fact that you're calm about it, you help keep the issue in perspective for the tenants will help massively. So I got to tell you, the first thing is when the heating system stops, they touch the radiators and it's cold, it's not piping hot, they don't feel the warm air blowing out of the vent, whatever it is, they start freaking out. They're like, oh my God, I've got babies in here, we've got kids, we're all getting sick, we're gonna die, oh my God, and you say, okay, wow, I got you, I understand. Let them know you heard them. Thanks for reaching out. I do understand the heat's not working properly. I know that can be very scary and frustrating. Don't worry about it. I know what I'm doing. I've been here before. These things absolutely happen. This is not my first rodeo. I had 2 properties where the heat broke last week. We took care of everybody there. Nobody died. Everybody's kids are happy. I'm going to do the same thing with yours, okay? Slow them down. Help them understand. Keep it in perspective. Listen, okay, it's still 72 degrees in here because it was 79 a minute ago, or a couple hours ago. So it's still very, very warm. Don't worry about it. So, and then help them keep it and put it in perspective. Let them know exactly what's going on. We're going to have somebody, we already know, somebody else called us in. Somebody's already on their way to check this out. We think we'll have it working by the end of the day today. If not, and it's going to go till tomorrow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a couple of different options so you can figure out what is best for you, but you're going to have a warm place. You're either going to go to a nice hotel. We'll put you up somewhere nice. No, not MGM, but it's going to be a nice place. Up to $150, whatever, you set that expectation, or we'll drop off a space heater, or you can stay with a friend and I'll credit your account for the inconvenience, or the extra electricity use, whatever, and you slow them down and be like, okay, it's just that the heat broke. We'll fix it. It's not a problem. We know, we're here. I've got somebody that's good with this stuff. Boom, boom, boom. And so there you go. I mean, that's absolutely what he could have done, should have done. Maybe he did. And unfortunately, people need to get reset. They get themselves worked right back up, and then they need to get reset again, and you kind of need to do that process all over again. Okay, listen, I understand it's been 2 days. It's not my fault that these things break. It's not my fault that you can't get stuff right now, but I am doing everything I can to make sure you guys are all happy and safe, you know what I mean, et cetera, et cetera. And anything else, guys, anything else that'll change their tune within reason is just money. It's just usually a dollar amount that you could work with. Remember, you don't want people refusing to pay rent, becoming adversarial, especially if you're in one of those kind of states, one of those states like Massachusetts or California or New York, one of those places that make it so hard and so expensive for a landlord to defend themselves and prove themselves that they did a good job. And I've done that a lot. I've had to do that many, many, many times, to stand in front of a judge and say, listen, I don't know what to tell you. Things will break. It's not a bad reflection of me. In fact, this scenario was a great reflection of me. We immediately jumped in. Within 45 minutes, we had somebody at the property. As soon as they reported it, we had somebody there 45 minutes. We we made an assessment. We tried a couple of different things and troubleshooting and blah, blah, blah. And within 2 hours, I was able to talk to the tenant and said, listen, parts aren't going to be available until tomorrow, whatever. And I provided them a number of choices. They could have a hotel, they could have space heaters, they could stay with a cousin, or either going to give them a credit on their account if they wanted to stay outside of a hotel and stay in the apartment or whatever, or I'll take care of reimbursing them, or I even pay for the hotel up front, whatever. A couple of different options. My baby's got asthma. Yeah, I know. They're always with the baby's got asthma. But I think this guy did a great job. I don't know what you guys think.
Couture tells us as of today, the heat in one of the buildings has been fully restored and about 90% restored in the other one. Live in Springfield, Kristen Burnell, Western Mass News.
Kristen, thanks for that live report. And if you have a question or something you want.
So there you go. I mean, heat's mostly restored everywhere out throughout the property. This guy took probably an incredible expense to do it, especially to do it on an emergency basis. They were scrambling when they're driving, 2 hours away, hitting multiple vendors, buying brand new equipment versus repairing the existing equipment. Not just because he's like, oh, I'm just going to spend and I'm going to do it this way. Yeah, it's going to inconvenience my people longer. No, he did it because he had to. He didn't have any other options. In fact, most people wouldn't have the ability and have the kind of reserves like that lined up. A lot of people don't. A lot of mom and pop landlords, they're depending on their tenants' rent for February. On February 1st to pay for February's mortgage. And probably not the best way to be doing it because something could go wrong with the property It's not just something that's always going to be insurance related or covered. Even if it is, you're not always going to get an insurance check fast enough to take care of this stuff. Remember, if you're renting out a home to people, you have responsibilities to them. And this video was a great example of why it's important to learn what your responsibilities are and then make sure you're implementing procedures where all your tenants' needs are being met in the best ways possible. Because if not, everybody wants to talk about getting sued. These people picked up the phone and also, called the news. They probably called the city a number of times, and the city probably told them exactly, like, listen, we know, we've been very much in touch with the landlord. He is fixing the issue. From what I understand, he offered people hotels, he offered people space heaters, and she said, well, space heaters aren't safe. And I'm saying the same thing. I was like, well, let's take a hotel. I'm sure he'll let you out of your lease if you want to move. I don't know what to say, but a magic wand can't always be waved, and these things do break down, no matter how many times a year you service them, any of that. So anyway, guys, I hope some of that helped. I've been on here for a little bit longer than I was thinking for this video. I hope this was something that was valuable and useful. If it was, I'm sure you're already subscribing. But if not, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the notifications bell. One of the things that we've been learning is that the notifications bell might be grayed out for you. So if it is grayed out and you can't ring it, you have to unsubscribe and then resubscribe. That's kind of important. Resubscribe. Ring that bell. That bell will help you know when we're going to go live. We'll be doing this a lot more often, and I hope I'm able to reach a lot more people that way. So make sure you tell your friends. Send a little invite to somebody that you think might benefit from learning a little bit more about the world of real estate. And we'll be back to do more of these for you. Thanks so much for watching with us. And again, my name's Kevin. I'm the Property Prince on behalf of Two Guys Take on Real Estate. Matt, the Landlord Ninja, will be back with me in the office on Monday, and we'll be making some more videos for you. And we know you'll all enjoy those. So keep your eye on our